I'm Ben, 32, and I've been dealing with the fallout from my divorce a year ago, as well as the aftermath of a false accusation that turned my life upside down. I've debated sharing this, but I feel like things are finally coming to light, and I need some clarity. To give some context, I was married to Kathy for 6 years. We had what I thought was a good relationship. Nothing perfect, but we talked about having kids and building a future together. Things seemed to be on track. It started out like any other evening. My parents were over for dinner, and Kathy seemed to be in an unusually cheerful mood. She was laughing, joking, and acting like everything was fine. But then, out of nowhere, she dropped a bombshell. "I need to address something," Kathy said suddenly, her tone shifting from warm to icy in an instant. She put down her wine glass and turned to me with an expression I can only describe as rehearsed. "Ben, do you want to tell everyone what you've been doing behind my back? Or should I?" I froze, completely blindsided. "What are you talking about?" I asked, genuinely confused. She pulled out her phone and slammed it on the table. I found these texts. I know about the affair." My stomach sank as she scrolled through the screen, displaying what looked like text messages between me and someone named Emily. They were explicit and incriminating. But the problem was, they weren't real. "What? Kathy, I've never sent those messages." "I don't even know who Emily is," I said, my voice rising as I picked up her phone to look closer. "Don't lie to me, Ben," she snapped, her voice shaking, though I couldn't tell if it was anger or an act. "I saw you. I know what you've been doing. Don't you dare try to deny it." "Kathy, this isn't real. These messages are fake," I said firmly, trying to keep calm. "I've never cheated on you. Why would you even think that? Fake? You're seriously going to sit there and tell me they're fake?" She laughed bitterly, turning to my parents. See? This is what I'm dealing with. He can't even admit it when he's caught red-handed." My mom, who had been silent up until this point, looked between the two of us nervously. "Ben, is there any truth to what she's saying?" "No, Mom," I said, frustrated that I even had to defend myself. "There's no truth to it at all. These texts are fabricated. I don't know how she did it, but I swear I didn't do any of this." But Kathy wasn't finished. "Oh, so now I'm a liar, too?" she said, her voice breaking as she turned on the waterworks. "I can't believe this. I gave you everything, Ben. I trusted you. And this is how you repay me?" My dad cleared his throat, clearly uncomfortable. "Kathy, are you sure about this? This is a serious accusation." "Of course, I'm sure," she said, glaring at me. "I saw him with her at the cafe on Main Street. He didn't see me, but I saw them laughing, touching. It all makes sense now. And these texts? They're just more proof." I was speechless. Not only was she accusing me of something I didn't do, but now she was adding a whole new layer to her story. "Kathy, that's not true. I wasn't at any cafe, and you know it. Why are you doing this? Why am I doing this?" she repeated, her voice rising. "Are you serious? You think I'd make this up? You think I'd want to believe that the man I married, the man I loved, could betray me like this? No, Ben, you did this. Not me." The room was tense. My parents exchanged uneasy glances, unsure of what to believe. My mom spoke up again, her voice quiet. "Ben, is there any way to prove this isn't true?" "I don't even know where to start," I admitted, running a hand through my hair. "She's making all of this up. The texts are fake. The story about the cafe is fake. I don't know how to prove something that didn't happen." But Kathy wasn't letting up. She sniffled, wiping at her eyes as if she were the victim of some great tragedy. "You don't have to prove anything, Ben. The truth is already here. You just don't want to admit it. And honestly, I'm done trying to make you." With that, she stood up, grabbing her phone and storming out of the room. My parents sat there in stunned silence, looking at me as if I had just shattered their world. No matter how many times I tried to explain after that, Kathy had already painted herself as the victim. I shook my head, a wave of disbelief washing over me. "These aren't real, Kathy. They're fake. Look at them closely. You can tell they've been altered. These aren't even my words." But she just looked at me with a pitying smile, like I was the one who was delusional. "You really expect me to believe that? I saw them. I saw you with her, too. Don't play games with me, Ben." My mom's voice cut through the tension. "Ben, is this true? What she's saying?" I looked at my parents, trying to make them understand. "No, Mom, it's not. These texts, they're fake. I swear on everything I've worked for, I didn't cheat on her. I don't even know this Emily. She's making all of this up." But my dad, who usually took my side, stared at the screen and then back at me. His face was unreadable, and I felt a pit in my stomach. "Ben, You're a grown man. If you've made a mistake, you need to own up to it. You can't expect us to ignore what's right in front of us. I couldn't believe it. My own father was starting to believe her over me. Kathy's voice was cold, triumphant. See? Even he knows. Maybe it's time you stop pretending, Ben. I'm done with your lies. No, you're wrong. I was desperate, feeling like I was drowning. These texts were fabricated. I've never done anything to betray you, Kathy. Please, just listen to me. But she was already looking at my parents, turning her victim act up to 11. I don't want to cause a scene, but I can't keep this to myself anymore. You're all going to have to choose who you believe, but I can't stay married to a man who lies to my face. My mother put a hand on Kathy's, her voice soft but full of concern. You poor thing. I can only imagine how much this must hurt. Ben needs to own up to whatever happened. He owes you that, dear. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own mother, who had known me my entire life, was siding with Kathy. But Mom, Dad, I tried again, voice cracking. This isn't me. It's not true. You have to believe me. But they wouldn't listen. My mom patted Kathy's hand reassuringly. She's hurting, Ben. You wouldn't understand. My dad added, his voice distant. If she's saying this, there's got to be something to it. You need to figure this out. I tried to show them the flaws in the text messages, how they didn't match anything I would ever say or do, but it was as if they were hearing none of it. I even brought up how Kathy had always had this manipulative streak, how she would spin a sob story to get sympathy and then twist everything around to make herself the victim. But none of it mattered. Kathy had them completely wrapped around her finger. As the divorce progressed, things only got worse. Kathy portrayed me as a monster, a cheater who had ruined her life. My conversations with my parents became increasingly strained, with them doubting everything I said. It felt like I had not only lost my wife, but also my family's support. To them, I was the villain, while Kathy continued feeding them more lies. Her ability to act the part of the heartbroken, wronged wife was astounding. The divorce was a nightmare. I lost everything, my wife, my family's trust, and my peace of mind. For months, I felt completely isolated. Then, just a few months after the divorce was finalized, Kathy married Roger, a wealthy entrepreneur. I had no idea she'd been seeing him during our marriage, but looking back, it makes sense. Roger seemed to be everything Kathy wanted: successful, powerful, and able to provide the life she dreamed of. She'd always been drawn to power and status, and Roger fit the mold perfectly. At first, I was devastated, but over time, I realized how twisted the entire situation was. Kathy went from accusing me of infidelity to marrying someone else who had clearly been in the picture long before we split. It became clear she'd been using Roger as a stepping stone in her pursuit of the life she wanted. The betrayal hit hard, but it also opened my eyes to who she truly was. Kathy used the false accusations of my supposed cheating as a way to justify her actions, but in reality, she had been playing her own game all along. She orchestrated everything, and her lies completely turned my life upside down. Meanwhile, my relationship with my parents continued to deteriorate. Every time I tried to open up about how I was feeling or explain what was really going on, they turned a blind eye. They were too busy doting on Kathy and embracing her new life with Roger. They even started going on vacations with them, leaving me out of family events entirely. It felt like I was being erased from their lives, while Kathy became the one they chose to protect. Then, something happened that I never expected. A few weeks ago, I started hearing rumors about Kathy and Roger's marriage. Apparently, things weren't as picture-perfect as they appeared on Instagram. Roger had been reaching out to some of our mutual friends to vent about Kathy, saying she was constantly stirring up drama and trying to control every aspect of their life together. The most surprising part? Kathy herself began hinting that she wasn't so happy in her new marriage after all. People who knew her well mentioned that she was expressing dissatisfaction with Roger, claiming he wasn't meeting her needs in certain ways. It seemed like the facade she had worked so hard to maintain was finally starting to crumble. Now, Kathy's lies are unraveling, and the truth is coming to light. It's becoming clear to everyone that Kathy may not be the victim she portrayed herself to be. People are starting to wonder if Kathy is the real issue in her relationship with Roger, especially since he has been confiding in others about how difficult things have become with her. I'm not sure what will happen next, but a part of me feels vindicated. Kathy isn't the perfect woman she pretended to be, and she's beginning to lose her hold on the people around her. Her version of events is finally being questioned, and that's all I ever wanted. I never sought revenge, but seeing the truth come to light feels like a small win after everything I've been through. I don't know what's next for me, but I've started therapy to help me process the trauma of it all. I'm slowly working on rebuilding my life, and for now, it feels like things are finally shifting in my favor. Maybe the truth about Kathy will fully come out sooner rather than later. A month later, Kathy and Roger are getting divorced. And here's the kicker. She's accusing him of cheating. The irony isn't lost on me. It's like she's using the same playbook she used on me. The difference this time is that more people are questioning her story. From what I've heard, Kathy is once again portraying herself as the victim, telling everyone that Roger betrayed her and shattered her trust. But the same people who once gushed about their so-called fairy tale relationship are now starting to see through her facade. Some mutual friends have even reached out to me, expressing regret for believing her lies about me. I'll admit, part of me feels vindicated. For years, Kathy manipulated everyone around her, but now her web of lies is starting to unravel. At the same time, I feel conflicted about Roger. He knowingly got involved with a married woman, so it's hard to feel much sympathy for him. But I can't deny he might be experiencing the same manipulation and deceit I went through. I've considered reaching out to Roger, but decided against it. As many of you pointed out in my last post, getting involved in Kathy's drama isn't worth it. Roger made his choices, and now he's facing the consequences. I've spent enough of my life tangled in Kathy's chaos, and I refuse to let her pull me back in. One thing I haven't mentioned much is my parents. Unfortunately, they're still firmly on Kathy's side. They've always defended her, even after she accused me of cheating and tore our family apart. For the longest time, I couldn't understand why they were so determined to support her, but recently, I've come to realize the truth. My parents have always wanted a daughter. Before Kathy and I even got married, my mom and dad treated her like the daughter they never had. They doted on her, praised her, and practically welcomed her as part of the family. At the time, I thought it was great. I wanted Kathy to feel welcomed and loved. But now, it's clear that their desire for a daughter has blinded them to who she really is. It's ridiculous, honestly. Kathy has manipulated them just like she manipulated me, and they've allowed her to turn them against their own son. It hurts, but I've stopped wasting my energy trying to change their minds. If they can't see the truth, that's on them. For now, I'm focusing on my own healing and letting things play out naturally. Kathy's facade is already starting to crack. People are questioning her motives, and her reputation is taking a hit. I won't lie. It feels good to see her facing some consequences for her actions. Do I think she'll change? Probably not. But that's no longer my problem. I'm done trying to understand her or clean up the messes she creates. All I can do is move forward with my life and let karma handle the rest. After months of silence, Roger finally reached out to me. I wasn't sure what to expect. I mean, we'd been through so much, and after everything that had gone down with Kathy, I wasn't sure I could handle another emotional bombshell. But curiosity got the best of me, and I agreed to meet with him. When we met at a quiet cafe, I could tell something was weighing on him. He seemed different, not the same guy I had known before all this chaos began. He looked a little more worn, like the weight of his own battle had started to show. "Hey, Ben," he greeted me with a tight smile, his voice sounding a little rough. "Thanks for agreeing to meet." I nodded. "Of course, man. What's going on? You sounded like you had something serious to talk about." Roger leaned forward, and without wasting any time, he slid a stack of papers across the table toward me. I raised an eyebrow, unsure of what this was about. "What's this?" "Everything," he said. "Everything I found out. Everything she did to us." I scanned the papers quickly, my heart sinking as I saw screenshots of text messages, notes, and even photos that were completely out of place. Then, he started explaining. "I hired a private investigator," Roger said, his jaw clenched. "After Kathy accused me of cheating, I knew she was lying. So, I decided to find out what she was really up to. What I found, I wasn't prepared for." My head was spinning, but I kept listening as he continued. "She went to insane lengths to set you up, Ben. Everything she's accused you of, she's done herself." I shook my head, unable to process it at first. "Wait, what do you mean? What are you talking about?" Roger took a deep breath, then slid a few screenshots toward me. "These are some of the texts she sent to her friends, bragging about how she was planning to frame you, to make you look guilty of cheating. All of it was part of her game. When she started her affair with me, she told me that you were a cheater and you were in process of a divorce. She trapped me." I picked up the first screenshot, my hands trembling as I read the messages. They were from Kathy, talking to a friend, outlining how she could plant fake evidence to make it look like I'd been unfaithful. "I'll make sure to stage things perfectly," the message read. "I can't let him get away with this. He needs to pay, and I'll make sure the texts look convincing. He'll never see it coming." I looked up at Roger, my face in disbelief. You're telling me she planned all of this? Roger nodded slowly. She did. She faked text messages, staged conversations between you and other women, and even planted fake scenarios to make you look guilty. She was manipulating the whole situation from the start, Ben. And that's not even the worst part. The PI found more. Way more. I felt sick to my stomach as I processed what he was saying. I had known something felt off, but this was beyond anything I could have imagined. So, all of those accusations, everything she said about me, was just a lie? Roger looked at me, his eyes hardening. Yes, everything. The PI dug into her past too. There were countless instances where she did this, manipulating people to get what she wanted, spinning lies to get sympathy, and setting people up just to make herself the victim. I couldn't believe it. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I had trusted, had been orchestrating this entire nightmare. Roger continued, showing me more. She kept all these notes, Ben. She's been planning this for years, getting what she wanted from people, and then moving on once she had enough. She manipulated me into thinking I was the problem, and when I wouldn't go along with it anymore, she accused me of cheating, just like she did to you. I stared at the notes in front of me, each one showing Kathy's twisted logic and how she'd planned every detail of her attacks on both Roger and me. How did we not see this? I whispered, my mind reeling. I don't know, Roger said, shaking his head, but I know one thing for sure. She's dangerous, Ben, and I'm done letting her get away with it. This stops now. I looked at Roger and said, this wasn't just about our marriages falling apart. It was about Kathy's manipulations, her constant scheming to get what she wanted. And in doing so, she had destroyed everything in her path, including us. I won't lie, seeing all of this laid bare was an emotional whirlwind. On one hand, I felt vindicated. Ever since her accusations, I knew I was innocent but had no way to prove it. On the other hand, it brought back all the pain of everything I lost because of her. My marriage, my relationship with my parents, and my peace of mind. It was a lot to process. But wait, there's more. Roger also discovered that Kathy has already moved on to a new target. Apparently, she's been cozying up to a wealthy businessman who is significantly richer than Roger. It's clear she's already laying the groundwork for her next conquest. Roger is understandably furious. He admitted to feeling like an idiot for falling for her charm, but he's also relieved to be getting out of the marriage. As for what Roger plans to do with all this information, he's still deciding. He's considering legal action, especially since Kathy financially manipulated him during their marriage. At the same time, he's debating whether it's worth the emotional toll to keep fighting her. Honestly, I can't blame him. Dealing with Kathy is utterly draining, and sometimes walking away feels like the only way to truly move on. Now, here's where I'm stuck. I haven't told my parents about any of this, not yet. After Roger shared everything with me, I've been taking time to process it and figure out my next steps. Part of me thinks I should show them the proof so they can finally see Kathy for who she really is. But another part of me wonders if it's even worth it. My parents have been so stubborn in their defense of Kathy, clinging to the idea that she's their perfect daughter. Looking back, I realize my parents adopted Kathy into our family even before we were married. They've always wanted a daughter, and Kathy seemed to fill that void for them. At the time, I thought it was sweet, how they made her feel so welcome and adored her. But now, their blind loyalty to her feels both ridiculous and deeply hurtful. Even with undeniable proof of her lies, I'm not sure they'd ever admit they were wrong or take my side. Honestly, I've been so disappointed in them that I'm hesitant to even give them the chance to redeem themselves. I've spent so much time trying to heal and focus on myself, and I don't want to be dragged back into the mess they created by choosing Kathy over me. As for Roger, I'll admit there's a small part of me that feels bad for him. Even though he knew Kathy was married to me when he got involved with her, I don't think he deserved to be manipulated to this extent. That said, I can't help but feel like he brought some of this on himself. He chose to get involved with Kathy, and now he's experiencing firsthand the chaos she brings into people's lives. For now, I've decided to stay on the sidelines and let things play out. I'm not going to intervene in Roger's situation or Kathy's new relationship. As some of you pointed out before, getting involved would only risk pulling me back into her web of manipulation, and I'm determined to keep moving forward. That said, it's satisfying to know the truth is finally coming to light. Kathy's house of cards is crumbling, and people are starting to see her for who she really is. It's a long overdue reckoning, and I can only hope that karma continues to catch up with her. A few days ago, I saw Kathy. She didn't see me, but there she was, strolling through an upscale shopping mall, carrying expensive bags and laughing with one of her friends, as if her life was perfectly fine. It felt like all the chaos and damage Kathy caused didn't matter. I know I've been working on moving forward, but seeing her living her life so carefree after everything she's done, it made me snap. It was infuriating to watch her walk around without a care in the world, while Roger is dealing with the fallout of their divorce and I'm still piecing my life back together after what she did to me. That moment was the final straw. I went home, sat down, and reflected on everything. Kathy keeps getting away with her manipulation because she always manages to fly under the radar. She charms people, spins her sob stories, and moves on to the next target before anyone can expose her. I couldn't sit by and let Kathy keep getting away with it. It had been months since everything came crashing down, but I knew deep down that as long as people like Roger and I stayed silent, she would keep playing the same game, ruining more lives with her lies and manipulations. It wasn't just about me anymore. It was about preventing her from hurting anyone else. So, I reached out at Roger. It felt strange at first, after everything we'd been through, but I knew it was the right thing to do. When I heard back from him, I could tell he'd been busy. Really busy. "Hey, Ben," he said when I called. His voice was a bit strained, like he was juggling too many things at once. "It's been a while. What's up?" "Hey, Roger. I've been thinking about everything. I don't want to sit back and let Kathy keep doing this to people. I don't think we should just let her get away with it anymore." There was a brief pause on the other end of the line before he responded. "I've been feeling the same way. Honestly, I've been trying to keep a low profile, but yeah, she's still pulling the same crap. I'm not going to let her get away with it this time." I could hear the resolve in his voice, and I knew he was working on something behind the scenes. "What's going on with the divorce? Are you making any progress?" Roger let out a long breath. "Yeah, I've been documenting everything. Her financial manipulation, the lies, the way she's been spending money like it's nothing. I've got receipts, screenshots, and even some statements from people who've seen her in action. I'm not letting her walk away with a penny more than she deserves." I could sense the anger and determination in his voice. "Damn, Roger. You're really going all in." He chuckled darkly. "What else can I do? I'm not just going to let her take me for everything, Ben. I've spent enough time being manipulated by her. Now, I'm making sure she doesn't do the same thing to anyone else. I've even got her spending habits in check, so she can't claim she needs more than she actually does. Everything's being documented and filed for court. It's going to be airtight." "Sounds like you've got everything under control," I said, genuinely impressed. I don't know if I could have done all that, but honestly, I respect that. There was a slight pause on the other end. I wasn't sure if he was surprised by my words or just taking it all in, but after a moment, he replied, "Thanks, Ben. It means a lot. But this isn't just about me anymore. This is about making sure she doesn't keep pulling the same stunts on anyone else. I'm not going to let her destroy anyone else's life like she tried to do to both of us." I nodded, even though I knew he couldn't see me. "I get it, and I'm in. I'll help however I can. She's not going to keep getting away with this." Roger's voice softened a little. "Thanks, man. I appreciate it. But I had a different idea." I suggested to Roger that, instead of dragging this out in a lengthy and emotionally draining legal battle, we focus on exposing Kathy publicly, not out of petty vengeance, but to finally reveal the truth about her to the people who keep falling for her facade. Roger was hesitant at first. He's been trying to keep things as civil as possible, even though Kathy doesn't deserve it. But as we talked, he admitted that part of him wants to ensure no one else becomes her next victim. After months of feeling humiliated, betrayed, and drained by her antics, he agreed it's time to put a stop to this. We brainstormed ways to do this responsibly. We don't want to stoop to her level or risk doing anything that could backfire legally. Instead, we're considering sharing the evidence Roger and the private investigator uncovered in a factual and straightforward way. No embellishments, no personal attacks, just the truth. One idea is to make the information accessible to people she might target in the future. Another option is to discreetly share it with some of the social circles she frequents. Kathy thrives on her reputation, so exposing her would make it much harder for her to keep up the act. I know some of you might think this is me getting too involved again, but this isn't about revenge anymore. It's about ensuring Kathy doesn't get the chance to ruin more lives the way she ruined mine. I'm tired of standing by and letting her get away with everything while everyone else is left to clean up the mess she leaves behind. That said, I'm still being extremely cautious. I haven't decided if I'll share any of this with my parents yet. They're still blindly defending Kathy, and honestly, I'm not sure I have the energy to try to change their minds. If they want to keep worshiping her, that's on them. At this point, I've made peace with the fact that they may never see the truth. 6 months later, Roger and Kathy finalized their divorce a few weeks ago. Roger ensured she walked away with as little as possible, thanks to the evidence he collected during their marriage. It was satisfying to know that she didn't get the payout she was likely banking on. After the divorce was settled, Roger and I put our plan into motion to expose Kathy's manipulative ways. Roger was the one who came up with the plan. "I know the perfect opportunity," he told me one afternoon over the phone. "I've got this exclusive dinner event I'm attending. Tons of people from our social circle, and some very influential people, too. Kathy's bound to be there. I'll make sure she's exposed in front of everyone." I felt a surge of vindication at the thought of her finally being caught. "So, what's the plan? You've got evidence, right?" Roger didn't hesitate. "I've got everything. Texts, screenshots, notes from her friends. All of it. I've been gathering it all since the divorce started. The private investigator has done wonders." I couldn't help but feel a rush of satisfaction. Kathy had always been so good at playing the victim, spinning her web of lies without anyone questioning her. It was time for the truth to come out. "Okay, I'm in, but we need to make sure it's perfect. No room for her to twist the story." Roger was on the same page. "Absolutely. We'll wait for the right moment. No theatrics, just the facts. Calm and measured. Let her dig her own grave." The night of the dinner event came, and I felt a knot of anticipation in my stomach. I wasn't sure how I would feel watching everything unfold, but I knew we were doing the right thing. Roger and I made our way into the event, and as expected, there she was, Kathy, looking as polished and charming as ever, clinging to her new target, a man who was even wealthier than Roger. It made me sick to see how easily she slipped into her manipulative role again, but I reminded myself that this was the moment everything was going to change. Roger subtly pointed her out to me. "There she is. Let's wait for the right time." I nodded, trying to steady my nerves. The whole room was buzzing with conversation, but I knew that once Roger made his move, everything would come to a screeching halt. As the evening went on, Kathy worked the room effortlessly, laughing, talking, and drawing attention to herself like she always did. It was almost surreal to see her in action again, but I knew she had no idea what was about to happen. Roger was waiting for his moment, watching her closely, waiting for her to get comfortable. Finally, he saw his chance. He stood up, commanding the attention of the room, his voice clear and unwavering. "Ladies and gentlemen," Roger started, his tone calm but firm, "I'd like to take a moment to address something that's been weighing on me for a long time. You all know Kathy, but I'm sure there's a lot you don't know about her. About the lies, the manipulation, and the way she's hurt both me and Ben." The entire room quieted as Roger spoke. People turned toward him, some curious, others confused. "You see, Kathy has a history of doing whatever it takes to get what she wants," Roger continued. "During our marriage, she fabricated evidence to make it seem like I was cheating. She staged conversations, manipulated texts, and even tried to destroy my reputation. And what's more, she did the same thing to Ben here." The room shifted instantly. Whispers broke out, people exchanging glances, clearly shocked by Roger's revelation. Kathy's face went white as she realized what was happening. I could feel the tension in the air, and my heart was racing in my chest. Roger didn't stop. "And if you think this is just some petty attempt to slander her, let me show you the evidence. I've got proof. Texts, photos, notes, everything she tried to use to ruin me. This isn't just some story. It's the truth." He pulled out his phone, showing the damning evidence on the giant screen for everyone to see. Screenshots of the manipulated texts, photos of her planning her schemes with her friends. Kathy stood there, frozen, her charm slipping away. She tried to speak, to defend herself, but her words faltered as people around her started to whisper, their expressions changing. "I know this isn't easy to hear," Roger said, his voice still calm, "but it's the truth. And the truth is what matters." The atmosphere in the room was electric. Shocked gasps, people exchanging incredulous looks. Kathy's new target was visibly uncomfortable, clearly trying to distance himself from her. He shifted in his seat, his eyes darting between Roger and Kathy. Kathy tried to regain her composure, but her usual manipulative charm couldn't save her. "This is all a lie," she spat, her voice trembling, but it was clear her usual tactics weren't working. The evidence was too overwhelming. The room had already turned against her, and she could see it. Humiliated, Kathy backed away from the group, her face flushed with anger and embarrassment. Without another word, she turned and bolted out of the room, leaving everyone stunned in her wake. And that's it. I'm now focused on moving forward. The weight of Kathy's lies is finally off my shoulders, and I'm determined to keep building a life free from her shadow. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.